Captain Hiroshi Tanaka is staring, in total shock at this tray of food right in front of him on March 7th, 1943. His hands are shaking a little. As he looks at all this yummy stuff, there's a big piece of roast beef with gravy, mashed potatoes, green beans, a roll with butter, and even a slice of apple pie. The American medical officer says it's just a normal meal for patients. As Tanaka picks up his fork, he feels the heavy weight of 15 years of military training pushing down on him. Before I continue, let me know in the comments where you're watching this from. Just 3 weeks ago, he was fighting in the jungles of Guadalcanal, ready to die instead of giving up to the Americans. He'd been told for years by his leaders that Americans were mean and would hurt or kill any Japanese soldier they caught. But now, here he is in a clean hospital bed, with his bad wounds all fixed up nicely. He's getting better medical care than regular people back in Japan ever get. That tray has more meat than he's seen in 6 whole months. What Tanaka sees that day goes against 18 years of being taught that Americans are savage and Japanese are better. This can't be real, he whispers to himself in Japanese. This has to be some tricky lie. But as the days go by at Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, he'll find out that all this good stuff is not only real, but it's normal here. And it will break apart everything he believed about America, the war, and his own country's chance to win. The path that brought Japanese prisoners of war to American camp hospitals started way before the Pacific War even began. All through the 1930s, Japanese people were hit with a big propaganda push to get ready for fighting. The government-controlled newspapers showed Americans as lazy, not disciplined, and weak. They said America was a country of people who just buy stuff for themselves and can't handle tough times or give up things for a bigger reason. Japanese army training said Americans were not as good because of their race, without the strong spirit and rules that Japanese soldiers have. Books from the Imperial War Ministry pictured American factories as messy and dishonest, making fancy things for rich people but ignoring war needs. The story was that Americans might live comfy in peace, but their factories would fall apart fast in a war. This propaganda got even stronger after Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Japanese papers said American factories couldn't make enough war stuff. Race fights were breaking cities apart, and Americans wouldn't put up with even small food limits. Schools taught kids that 1 Japanese soldier equaled 10 Americans. Army meetings promised that American doctors were basic compared to Japan's, and hurt American soldiers were often left to die on the battlefield. The few Japanese who had been to America before the war were kept out of army talks. Their real stories about America's strong factories were called lies or too much. When more American bombers showed up over the Pacific in 1942, the official word was these were America's last planes about to run out. But really, America's factory power in World War II was the biggest gathering of making stuff ever in history. From 1941 to 1945, American factories made 300,000 airplanes, 86,000 tanks, and over 71,000 ships of all sizes. One American shipyard, Kaiser in Richmond, California, could build a Liberty ship in just 14 days by 1943, way faster than Japanese yards could make ships a quarter that big. American factories made 47 million tons of steel in 1944 alone, compared to Japan's tiny $6 million. The United States built more trucks and cars for the Army in 1943 than Japan had ever made for anything in its whole factory history. Maybe most important for hurt, Japanese prisoners. America's doctor system was way bigger than Japan's. The U.S. had 15 doctors for every 10,000 people, while Japan had only 6. American medicine making was 18 times bigger than Japan's. These real numbers would hit hard for Japanese prisoners who ended up in American doctor care. Catching Japanese prisoners was a special challenge for American forces in the Pacific. Japanese Army rules said giving up was the worst shame, worse than dying. Soldiers were told to use their last bullet on themselves or run at the enemy to die instead of being caught. This worked so well that by mid-1942, for every 1,000 German or Italian prisoners in Europe, there were less than 5 Japanese in the Pacific. The few who got caught usually were knocked out in fights or too hurt to kill themselves or keep battling. That meant many Japanese prisoners first saw American good stuff from hospital beds, making the difference from their hard times even bigger. Some of the first big groups of Japanese prisoners came from Guadalcanal, where fights went from August 7, 1942, to February 9, 1943. By the end, Japanese troops had huge supply problems. Many soldiers were eating roots and tree bark, with daily food sometimes just one handful of rice. Doctor supplies ran out months before, so hurt guys suffered without germ killers, good wraps, or pain pills. Of Japanese soldiers taken off Guadalcanal with wounds, less than 30% lived because of bad care and not enough food. It was from this super hard time that hurt Japanese prisoners met the American doctor. Lieutenant Kenji Watanabe was a doctor, officer with the Japanese Imperial Army's 18th Infantry Division on Guadalcanal. Caught after getting shrapnel hurts in his leg and belly in January 1943. He thought he'd die from wounds or by his catchers. I had been told Americans took no prisoners, or worse, that they tortured captives for information before killing them, he later wrote in a letter found after the war. When I woke up on an American hospital ship, I thought I was kept alive just for questions. What happened next was a trip of one surprise after another as Watanabe saw American doctor care up close. The USS Solace, the hospital ship where Watanabe woke up, had stuff that would be fancy even in Tokyo's best hospitals. Clean sheets got changed every day. Wounds got treated with lots of sulfa drugs and the new wonder pill penicillin, which was so rare in Japan it was only for the emperor's family and top army guys. American doctors did 3 surgeries to take out shrapnel from Watanabe's belly, using good sleep meds that kept pain low. I kept waiting for the torture to start, Watanabe wrote, but instead, I got the same treatment as hurt American soldiers in beds nearby. I could not understand wasting stuff on an enemy. The surprises kept coming. When Watanabe and 28 other hurt Japanese prisoners moved to the Army Hospital at Camp Livingston in Louisiana in February 43 there, the differences got even clearer. Each patient got 3 full meals a day with more protein than a Japanese soldier got in a week. The hospital supply room had more wraps, pills, and surgery tools than Watanabe had seen in his whole doctor job in Japan. When he got a fever, he got penicillin right away, a pill so hard to get in Japan that Watanabe had only read about it in books. American nurses changed his wraps twice a day, throwing away used ones instead of washing and using them again, like in Japanese army hospitals. The easy throwing away of doctor stuff shocked me more than having so much, Watanabe later remembered. Things we would save and reuse carefully were tossed after one use. As he got stronger, Watanabe started talking to other Japanese prisoners in the hospital area. Sergeant Toshiro Yamamoto, who was with the Imperial Japanese Navy's Special Naval Landing Forces, got caught after being knocked out in the Battle of Tulagi. Like Watanabe, he woke up expecting hurt or death. Instead, he got treatment for a broken arm and shrapnel hurts that in a Japanese field hospital would probably mean cutting off the arm. American surgeons did careful operations to take out metal bits and fix blood tubes, saving his arm. When I asked why they would try so hard on an enemy soldier, the American doctor seemed confused by the question, Yamamoto told Watanabe. He said, simply, because you're a patient. Private First Class Ichiro Nakamura gave maybe the best clue. He had been a cook's helper with the 14th Infantry Regiment, so he knew all about Japanese army food. In the weeks before getting caught on Guadalcanal, he was stretching 100 grams of rice a day to feed 15 men, adding whatever plants they could eat. Now in the Camp Livingston Hospital, he watched in amazement as American patients griped about meals that looked like parties to him. The Americans leave food on their plates, he whispered to Watanabe, clearly upset by what it meant. They throw away more food than we got in a day on the island. How can we fight a country that has so much it can waste? This question, how Japan could ever beat such huge good stuff, started to bother the Japanese prisoners as they got better. Their trip of finding out went beyond hospital areas as they moved to regular POW spots. Camp McCoy in Wisconsin, which held over 5,000 Japanese POWs by the war's end, got called the resort by prisoners because of its comfy setup. Here, the proof of America's making power got even bigger, going way past doctor stuff to every part of daily life. At Camp McCoy, prisoners found barracks warmed all through the cold Wisconsin winter, something many never had even in normal life in Japan. Each guy got 2 wool blankets, a nice thing that even Japanese officers often didn't have in the field. The camp kitchen gave 3 meals a day on a changing menu made by food experts to keep everyone healthy. A normal daily food for each prisoner included 8 ounces of meat, 12 ounces of veggies, 16 ounces of potatoes or other stuff, 3 ounces of dried beans, 1 and 1/2 ounces of cooking oil, 18 ounces of bread, 1 ounce of coffee, and smaller bits of fruit, sugar, milk, and spices. This food gave about 3,500 calories a day, more than twice what many Japanese soldiers got on duty, and way more than the 1,800 calories or less for civilians in Japan by 1944. Captain Masao Nishimura, who was a supply officer with the Imperial Japanese Army before getting caught in the Philippines, was maybe the best at seeing the size of American good stuff. In 1 week at Camp McCoy, I saw more fats and protein given to prisoners than I could get for a whole company of men in a month in the Philippines, he wrote in a secret diary during his time there. The Americans seem to have no shortages. What we measure carefully in grams, they measure in pounds. When Nishimura asked for extra blankets for prisoners who said they were cold, he was shocked to get them right away without questions. In the Japanese army, that kind of ask would need lots of papers and bosses saying yes and probably get turned down. Here, the storage place seems to have endless supplies. The good stuff went to Dr. Care in the camp's sick bay too. Each Camp McCoy POW got a full doctor check when they arrived, with more care if needed. Teeth fixing, which was only for officers in the Japanese army, was for all prisoners. The camp sick bay had over 300 different pills, many not even in big Japanese army hospitals. When Private Tishi Fujioto got appendicitis in April 1943, he had emergency surgery hours after feeling bad. In Japan, that surgery was usually just for officers or rich people. The Americans seem to value all human lives the same, Fujimoto said to another prisoner. This is not what we were taught. It was from these things they saw that Japanese prisoners started calling American camp sick bays hotels. WWII word first showed up in a letter camp checkers caught, where a prisoner without a name wrote to a friend in another camp. If you feel even a little sick, I say go to the sick bay. These American hospitals are like hotels compared to what we had in the field. The beds have sheets. The food is better and the nurses actually smile at you. The saying spread among prisoners, becoming camp talk. American smart guys noted the word in reports. One writing, POWs call our medical places hotels, showing they like the treatment. The mind effect of this good stuff on Japanese prisoners was deep and had many sides. For many, the first feeling was not trusting it, thinking the comfy stuff was a trick to get info or make show stuff about treating prisoners nice. Sergeant Hideo Takahashi, caught on Saipan in July 1944, said no to all food for 3 days after getting to the camp hospital, sure it was drugged or bad. I thought it was a trick, he later told camp talkers. In our training, we were told Americans hurt prisoners. The good treatment didn't make sense to me. Only after seeing other Japanese eat without getting sick did Takahashi start eating. For others, the good stuff made them feel bad and guilty. Private Jiro Tanaka, getting better from jungle sickness at Camp Clarinda in Iowa, wrote in a checked letter, I eat better here as a prisoner than my family does in Tokyo. While my younger brothers and sisters go hungry, I get more food than I can eat. The shame is too much. Some prisoners tried to hide parts of their meals to send to families in Japan, not knowing it couldn't happen. Camp bosses often found hidden food during room checks. As weeks turned to months, how Japanese prisoners felt changed. The first not believing turned to kinda accepting, and finally to really rethinking the lies they'd been told about America. Lieutenant Yasujiro Ogata, who studied religion before getting pulled into the Imperial Japanese Army, kept a secret diary at Camp McCoy. His writings show this mind change. March 20th, 1943. We Americans must be showing us this to make us feel bad. No country could give so much to prisoners while in a war. By April 15th, his thinking shifted. The Americans waste more than we use. Their supplies seem really endless. I am starting to wonder if our leaders knew America's making power when they picked war. By June 7th, Ogata had a sad end thought. If what I see here is like all of America, Japan can't win this war. We were told America was soft and bad. But I see now, their factory power lets them be soft and super strong. It's a bad mix for an enemy. This, knowing that Japan faced not just a strong army, but a huge, money-won spread among prisoners, making what camp mind doctors called productive fatalism. Unlike German POWs who often believed in winning until late, Japanese prisoners accepted Japan's loss way earlier. Smart reports from Camp McCoy said by mid-1943, over 70% of talked to Japanese POWs thought Japan couldn't win, saying American factory power was the main reason. This was a total flip from what they believed before getting caught. The change was maybe biggest. Among Japanese doctor people held as POWs, Dr. Shiro Ishihara was a doctor with the Imperial Japanese Navy before getting caught when his hospital ship sank off Guadalcanal in November 1942 with 15 years of doctor work in Tokyo before the war. Ishihara first thought American doctor ways were worse than Japan's, like he'd been taught. His thinking changed fast when he saw American surgery and pill supplies himself. I was allowed to watch surgeries at the camp hospital, he wrote. In notes found later, the Americans use germ killers like it's nothing, giving big doses we would call wasteful in Japan. But their sick rates are super low. Their surgery tools are better than any I used in Tokyo. I have to say much of what I learned about American medicine was wrong. By 1944, the proof of American good stuff was so big that many Japanese prisoners went past just accepting to really studying American ways. At Camp McCoy and other places, prisoners asked for English books about American factories, farming, and medicine. Many started notebooks writing down American stuff they hoped to use back in Japan. When camp bosses set up work programs you could choose, Japanese POWs wanted jobs in food making, doctor services, and building. Unlike some German prisoners who worked to not be bored or get camp money, Japanese ones often said they wanted to learn American tricks. The difference between what they expected and what was real went beyond stuff to how people acted. Japanese army training said Americans hated other races and would treat Japanese prisoners extra bad compared to Europeans. The real thing was way different. While some guards were mean, especially early on, the main treatment followed Geneva rules, same as for Germans and Italians. Corporal Masahiro Yoshida, caught on Tinian in July 1944, wrote his confusion in a diary. The Americans keep us apart from German prisoners but give the same food, same doctor care, same living. This goes against our training that Americans see us as lower race and would treat us worse than Europeans. I don't get their thinking. The time with lots of doctor care changed things a lot. Mid-1944, when more Japanese prisoners came from Pacific fights, American camp hospitals had better ways to treat enemy hurt. Doctor people learned to expect big fear from new Japanese and made rules to help. New hurt Japanese were put in areas with other Japanese who already got used to being there, so friends could calm them. Staff learned simple Japanese words to explain stuff and make them feel okay. These ways made the mind switch from scared to kinda okay happen faster. Number proof of this. Doctor effects showed in health papers kept by camp. Bosses, Japanese prisoners often came, super skinny, and with lots of jungle sickness plus fight hurts, but got better fast. At Camp Livingston, new Japanese in 1943 were average 23% under normal weight for height. After 6 months, that was down to less than 5%. Sickness like beriberi and pellagra, common in new ones from bad food, were almost gone in camps within 3 months. Teeth health got way better too. New prisoners averaged 6 bad teeth things in 1944. By time to go home, it was less than 1 per person. The best proof of change came from the prisoners themselves, especially in talks not meant for Americans. Letters to family caught and read by checkers, but not sent because mail to Japan couldn't go during war, showed how deep views changed. Private Teo Shimizu at camp. Clorinda wrote to his parents in August 1944, "I am ashamed to say I am well fed and healthy while you have hard times. The Americans give better food to me, their enemy, than our army gave its soldiers. I have gained 10 kilos since caught. My wounds healed all thanks to pills I never saw in our field hospitals. How Could our leaders mess up so bad in picking to fight this country? Lieutenant Hiroshi Miyazaki, writing to his brother, was clearer. If you hear America is about to fall, don't believe it. I have seen their factories and farms with my own eyes during moves between camps. Their making hasn't gone down but gets bigger each month. From my train window, I saw more vehicles in one American farm town than in our whole home area. Japan's loss is not just maybe, but for sure. Get ready for this truth. Maybe the most telling talks were between prisoners. In 1944, American smart guys started putting helpful Nisei, second-generation Japanese Americans, as secret listeners among prisoners. These listeners, good at Japanese and knowing ways, got trust and reported private chats. The info showed by mid-1944, prisoner talks had mostly gone past if Japan would lose to what Japan after war would be. Prisoners with skill or job backgrounds often talked how American ways could rebuild Japan after lost. Sergeant Matsaru Tanaka, who went to farm school before Army, told a listener, Japan must use American farming after war. Their machines let one American farmer make what 20 Japanese need. I have watched close during work. They waste fuel but save tons of people time. With our rules and their ways, we could change Japanese farming. Same kinds of talks happened among prisoners from making, doctor, teaching, and building jobs. The effect of American good stuff wasn't just on stuff thoughts. Many prisoners had big idea changes as what they saw went against main parts of Japanese proud talk. Private Ichiro Fujioto, an old university student caught on Saipan, told a listener, we were taught American voting makes only selfish and split. But I see American guards from different places, backgrounds, families working good together. Their way works even with mess. This goes against all I learned about Japan's emperor way being better. As the war went on and American wins in Pacific grew, new Japanese prisoners brought sadder stories of things in Japan and held lands. Those caught in 1945 said big food lacks in Japan itself. Civilian food was down to less than 1,000 calories a day in big cities. Doctor stuff was so rare that army hospitals reused wraps up to 10 times and did surgeries without sleep pills. These stories made old prisoners sure of war end, while adding worry for home families. Captain Toshio Nakamura, caught on Iwo Jima in March 1945, brought bad news about Tokyo after American firebombs. The capital's burning, he told friends at Camp McCoy. Food giving broke in many spots. The bosses talk victory while people hunt scraps. When shown the camp's full sick bay, Nakamura cried, my daughter has tuberculosis, he told the camp talker. In Tokyo, no pills for normal people with that. She will die while I get care in this full place. Such knowing made mixed feelings in prisoners. Many said they felt thankful for their treatment and guilty about home hard times. Others got mad at Japanese leaders for starting war against a factory giant they didn't understand. Camp bosses saw more helping from Japanese prisoners after new ones came with fresh Japan news, thinking it meant seeing American win could end home pain fastest. By Japan's give-up on August 15, 1945, about 5,000 Japanese army people had been in American POW camps. Though this was a tiny part of Japan's whole army, these guys played a big role in after-war rebuilding because of seeing American ways close. Unlike most Japanese who first saw American good stuff during the takeover, these old prisoners had already gotten over shock and thought how to use American stuff for Japan. The lasting effect showed in early takeover years when General Douglas MacArthur's base started getting Japanese with skills to help rebuild. Old POWs were big in those who applied. Their apply letters often said their POW time changed them. Kenji Watanabe, the old doctor officer first treated on USS Solace, wrote, during 3 years as prisoner, I watched American doctor steps, clean ways, and health plans. I think these can fit Japanese ways to stop sickness during rebuild. Same. Farm experts, builders, teachers, and bosses who were POWs offered help, often saying they're watching in camps and knowing mind changes needed. Matsaru Tanaka, the farm school guy who studied American farming as prisoner, joined the Takeover's farm change program in 1946. His reports to bosses said, old prisoners of war can be good helpers in new ways. We already got past shock of different and can explain good points and mind fixes needed. This happened in Dr. Field, where difference between American and Japanese was super clear. Of 23 Japanese Army doctors held as POWs, 17 joined takeover health programs from 1945 to 1947. Dr. Shiro Ishihara, who wrote about American surgery in camps, became big in changing Japanese hospital ways under takeover help. In a 1948 report to takeover bosses, he wrote, "POW time with American Dr. Good Stuff made a goal to reach. While Japan can't match American stuff right away, we can use the planned ways and prevent focus I saw in camp hospitals. Beyond direct rebuild help, old prisoners shaped how Japanese saw Americans in early takeover time. Having gotten past their own fear in camps, they often helped explain cultures in their towns. Checks by takeover in 1946 found towns with returned POWs had less fear of American people and more helping with takeover plans than same towns without old prisoners. The word of American camp sick bays as hotels got new meaning in afterwar. Japan old prisoners used it when telling stories, making a picture to help other Japanese see difference between war lies and real. The term showed in Japanese paper stories of returning prisoners and got into bigger talks of takeover. A 1947 writing in Asahi Shimbun used the hotel thing when talking how seeing American ways close changed Japanese thoughts. Those who saw American systems close as prisoners in war or workers with takeover now tell of a real totally different from war stories. Like guests in a hotel, they watched American good stuff from inside and came back to tell us. The longest lasting from Japanese prisoner time was maybe how it helped Japan's after-war money change. Old prisoners who saw American big-making, moving stuff systems and boss ways brought these to their after-war jobs in Japanese factories. Tadashi Yamamoto, who worked camp fixing at Camp McCoy, joined Toyota Motor in 1949 and got to boss spot. In a 1976 talk, he linked his prisoner time to business way. As prisoner, I saw how Americans set up making and supply lines. Their systems wasted some but were super good in others. In rebuilding our factories, we took their size and tech ways while using Japanese rules to cut waste. This mix worked great. This repeated across Japanese factories as the country rebuilt in 1950s and 60s. Old prisoners, having seen American factory power close, became strong pushers for taking and changing American ways for Japan. Their close seeing of American good stuff convinced them American making systems worked, even as they tried to make them better with Japanese changes. When Japanese making started beating American in some areas by 1970s, the mix of American size with Japanese no waste was the result of things first seen by prisoners in American camps 30 years before. The change of Japanese prisoners from scared caught guys expecting hurt to learners of American ways shows the bigger change of Japan after World War II in both. Close seeing American good stuff broke old ideas and made room for new knowing. The small times of prisoners in camp sick bays they called hotels showed the bigger time of Japan under takeover and after. First fear giving to real looking and finally to good changing. While most Japanese felt this change only after give up, the prisoners had done their finding trip by war end, making them good links between wartime and after-war knowing of America and its ways. What started with a shocked Japanese captain staring not believing at a hospital meal in March 1943, ended in Japan's rise as money-strong by 1970s and 80s, built partly on bases laid by old prisoners who saw American good stuff close and saw its power and chances. The hotels that so surprised Japanese prisoners became pictures for a different tie with America, not as enemy to fear but as model to study, change, and in some spots beat. In this change lay maybe the deepest funny twist of the Pacific War, that Japan's loss would lead not to its end, but to its remake. Guided partly by those who felt American good stuff from the special spot of enemy prisoners in camp sick bays they could only call hotels.